So Herman was up here helping me, giving me advice, and actually gave me a really good tip. He showed me an amazing tip. I'm gonna show you in a few minutes. Came up in passing, we were just talking, I asked him a question, and the question was, should I cut my potatoes in half? And his answer, well, you'll have to wait and see. Welcome to A Simple Life with Cal. Today we are planting potatoes in a slightly unusual way, we'll put it that way. Here's how we're doing it. I'm using some cattle panels, half a cattle panel. I'm about to show you this. As well as I'm using goat manure compost, hay, straw, waste. Yes, that's exactly it. All those above. Now my potato towers, here's one of them I had built. I'm gonna show you how I build them. So I cut the panel in half, and then right when I'm done cutting in half, I cut this middle spline off, okay? And the reason for cutting that middle spline off is because I want these long ends. So I just cut this off. This takes a little manhandling to get going. Now I'm just gonna roll it, kind of roll it / fold it over. And this isn't gonna be perfectly straight or perfectly round, but you can get it as round as you want after the fact. So now we're gonna take these down, okay? And I'm putting some bends in here a little. We're gonna fold this right underneath here like that, okay? We're gonna get all these fingers on the same side, okay? So see, all these are on the top side of this side of the wire, okay? We're gonna do the same thing all the way down. If it's on the wrong side, we have to fix that, because if not, it'll end up making the whole thing a little bit crooked. All right, then we squeeze that down, okay? And somewhere in the middle, you're just gonna take this and you're gonna bend it back, okay? Just like that. That's it, that's it. You're gonna, just like that, you're gonna grab the next one, or every other, whatever you wanna do. Eventually you're gonna bend them all. I'm just doing every other just to make it nice and tight for me so I don't have to hold it. Okay.
Can I try bending one?
You want to try bending one? Sure. Yeah. All right, bend it over. There you go. So a 9-year-old can do it. I mean, he's a farm boy, but yeah. This is the only one that's a little weird. Okay, and this one, you're just gonna have to you're gonna have to bend it underneath. Okay, like this, and come back out up here. Yeah, just like that. So it just goes the opposite way. You can probably bend these back and forth 50 times before they break off. So now I'm just gonna put some downward pressure on this, okay, just like this. Okay, this is round enough to be a potato tower, okay? And at the end of the season, once this is all done with all the potatoes, I just come back through and I just open these up, okay? Just like this. Okay, open them up, and then I just pull the whole thing open. Now the boys are gonna go up to the top and they're gonna load up the Kubota with the manure and everything, and we're gonna bring it back, and we're probably gonna dump it right here and just let it air out for a day or two. All right, the boys are off. It's a good mix of straw and manure and compost and some soil. You can see this is about what I'm doing. I'm doing a layer of 4 or 5, trying to aim the buds out as much as possible. Okay, so they can get some sun. These ones aren't gonna be as big of a deal because I'm gonna pile this all the way up on top of it and I'll be done. So I want to show you a trick Herman was just telling me about. I was asking about cutting potatoes, what he thought about cutting the potatoes in half. And he said he did it, but the way that he did it was you dipped them in ash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was saying with the big ones, you take them and...
I'm dipping.
And so I got some ash here.
Dip them in ashes, that's right.
And he said you just dip them in ash.
That's right.
And it helped prevent them from rotting.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna try that. I've never tried that method. I have cut them in half before.
Well, they grow.
And I've had them just grow, but I always wondered why he didn't do it, because
sure.
With age comes wisdom.
Sure, you can do it. Now here, see this and here. Cut that one about like this, then you got an eye.
Good eyes on, yeah. Okay.
The ideal seed potatoes is about this big. About like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Dip them in ashes.
There you go.
And you go to twice as far.
So this is what they end up looking like. A little bit of ash,
dip them in ashes.
Yeah, and we'll give this a try and see how this works.
Then they don't rot as much, you know.
Okay. Well, we're gonna try a row and just see how that compares to the other ones. And as you guys saw, what I did is I made these 2 potato towers. I'm using a red Pontiac potato this year, as well as 4 of Herman's potatoes, and I can't remember what variety they are, but he found my sack hidden in the shade and stole 4 potatoes. Here's 4 potatoes for you. I go, well, okay, thank you, Herman. He goes, I stole 4 of yours. And I said, do you know where potato thieves go? And he looked at me like, no. I go, in the ground next to the other potatoes. So anyways, but this is what we have. We have these 2 potato towers. They are definitely big. They're about 2.5 feet across this way, and they're 4.5 feet tall. They are pretty stinking sturdy. I mean, like, sure, I can shake them, but like, they're not gonna fall over unless somebody like bumps into them with a utility vehicle or something like that. I do have a little bit of concern with how moist my medium is. I asked Christine about it. She's the one that's a real good gardener. I said, hey, do you think how moist should it be? You know, would it be too moist if I put some straw and manure in there? And she said, well, is it sopping wet? And I said, no, it's just damp like soil. She's like, it'll be fine. So some of this is a little on the damper side, but because of how it's stacked, I think this is gonna dry out really good, especially since the next couple of days are supposed to be really warm, 85s, and we're like early spring. You guys are gonna be watching this probably about a month after I planted these, because I've explained this in the past. I have a 9 to 5, and so a lot of my content ends up being put out about a month after I film it, and that is because if I get really busy or I have to go on a work trip or something comes up where I cannot film, I still want to be putting content out because I want to be consistent for you guys. That's what this comes down to. So I'm sorry, you're going to see me plant these after you're already done planting all your gardens, so you won't be able to try the same experiment that I'm trying. But next year I'll remind you about it early, like when it's planting time, and you can try it if you'd like. But you'll have to build up your own source of goat manure. But for me, this is gonna work good. And the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually put some in our garden. Okay, so I have some mounds here. I'm gonna level them out. I think one go with a tiller, and I'm pretty sure all that will be tilled right in. It won't be a problem. Before I come in with the tiller, I am gonna spread it myself so we don't have big clumps, because the tiller's not gonna spread that very nicely. The boys are actually up on top of the hill. Clint's been running the little tractor and loading up the Kubota, and Clay's been bringing the loads down and dumping them. It's been great to see the boys work by themselves without me standing there hovering over their shoulders, because you know that can be really daunting when you have, you know, your dad hovering over and you're trying not to make any mistakes because he's going to correct you immediately. This gives them a little bit of space to make some mistakes, do some things, figure out it didn't work, especially Clint when he's running the tractor, and he's able to do that without me standing there. So I'm trying to take some of that pressure off of him and give him a little bit of space to experiment. The Yanmar is a pretty easy tractor to run. It doesn't have a ton of power. It's not going to flip. It's got a lot of low weight to it because of the fact that it has a tiller on the back, as well as he's on a perfectly flat area. So if he rolls the Yanmar up there, he's trying really hard. Start driving forward. Whoa! Tiller should be able to do the rest of what we need done here. Most of this stuff is pretty easily broken down. So I'm gonna get the tiller and we're gonna till all this in now. It's tilled. And it's tilled twice, so actually this would be the third time it's been tilled. So what I did this time is I went through once at low speed on the PTO and once at high speed on the PTO. The second time that I went through on the PTO at high speed, I was not hitting soil, like hardened soil, I was only fluffing the existing soil. So if you look, you can see this is really nice and fluffy. especially for the fact that this is all very clay kind of soil. The reason why I actually put some straw and stuff in here is I'd like to build up some more material in here that is less clay and more good topsoil-ish. That being said, this is excellent soil for growing, so I'm not complaining. There's no complaints. What I'm gonna do now is we're gonna throw a string down the side, and we're gonna start putting a row of potatoes in. And after potatoes, we're gonna do a couple rows of potatoes, and then I'll go from there. I'm gonna bring the rest of the plants up tomorrow. But because it's nice and cool out and it's not hot out, we're gonna work right now, despite the fact it's getting darker, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Why am I gardening the way I'm gardening? Well, it really comes down to time. I have limited time, and with my time, I need to be very wise. So would I love to do, let's say, hugelkultur? Yes, I love hugelkultur. We've done them in the past. They're amazing. They're a lot of fun, but it's not the way I'm going to garden this year. I need to be able to have as few maintenance issues as possible. And what do I mean by maintenance issues? Well, I don't want to have to do a lot of weeding. I don't want to have to go in and try to fight my soil when it comes to growing potatoes or onions or carrots or anything like that that needs light, fluffy soil. It's one of the reasons why I tilled the way I tilled, is I wanted as light and fluffy soil as possible so my seeds and everything would go, because I've already had enough setbacks this year. Now, I'm not crazy about tilling. It is one of the tools I have. For me, as a first-time gardener, but as a avid grower and land manager, I really think it's important to think about the medium that you have and how healthy it is. So I try to have very healthy mediums. This greenhouse actually had pigs in it last year. This year, there's no pigs, there's a garden. But in the future, some of these greenhouses, one of the reasons for having the pig panels going around the outside, is in the winter, I would like to put animals into my greenhouses to help build soil up. Well, if I'm going to have animals in there, goats, pigs, whatever I'm going to have, they're going to compact the soil. So once again, if they're compacting the soil, I'm going to need to come back in and basically remix my soil. When it comes to tilling, we have 4 different tillers at our disposal. I have the Yanmar, which has a tiller that is attached to it that is actually from Japan. Then I have the Kubota, and that has the Kubota tiller, which is what I used on this garden. I have a Honda tiller that actually is wheel driven, and that will actually it just goes forward and you walk behind it, and it has gears and everything. And then I have like a little Troy built, and that's like much smaller. So we technically have 4 tillers. What do I use them for? The Kubota, as you can see, makes absolutely beautiful soil. And it is going to be my go-to tractor for doing the tilling. It just is phenomenal. The Yanmar I like because it's a foot wider, so I like that for going through the vineyards and around the apple trees, because this whole entire hillside has always been dry farmed. And so there's no irrigation on any of the vineyards or any of the orchards. So because of that, I'm going to continue to dry farm it the way that Herman's done it until I come up with a better method, which may never happen. The little Honda, I've used that multiple times, and I actually really like that for where animals have been, because it's really easy to level the soil with that. That machine just kind of just chugs away and just kind of climbs over everything. It's really easy to kind of regulate the depth of how deep you want to go. I've really enjoyed that tiller. We use it down at our place, but it'll probably be coming back up here because I don't think we're going to be doing mini gardens down at our home farm anymore. And then the little Troy built, the small one, I use that sometimes to get in between rows of things if I need to.
Okay, man, it's been a brutal day, to be honest. But here's what we got done. We're still working. We're not even close to being done, but this is what we have so far. We got all our tomatoes, jalapenos, broccoli, cucumbers. We got everything in right here, and we have our irrigation going.
One of the other things I'm doing is I'm using drip irrigation. The reason for using drip irrigation is I want to be very precise with my watering. I want to water my plants, but I do not want to water the weeds. I want to have light, fluffy soil, so that way I can go in and easily remove any weeds that do start to come up. I want to be able to control the environment as much as possible so that way I am feeding the things I want to feed. This is just the way that I'm doing it. I'm not trying to preach that this is the right way or the wrong way. This is my first garden, really. And so I'm looking around at everything I've learned about farming and raising things over the last 4 or 5 years. And I'm saying, hey, I have limited time. I have about a half an hour a night that I can dedicate to caring for a garden. And this is a pretty good sized garden to be dedicating that amount of time. And so I need to be able to use my time very wisely. And so I'm using methods of growing as healthy a vegetable as I possibly can for our family in the smallest amount of time that I can dedicate. And it's a good amount of time to dedicate to raising vegetables.
All right, I just turned on the irrigation, the drip irrigation for these lines. So I'm gonna go to the bottom, pull them nice and tight. It's usually, once you turn them on, it takes a minute for the water to get all the way through them. Remember, I had the boys put those little divots in the ground. And look, those divots were almost perfectly spaced to get water. So each one of our kale seeds is gonna get water, just the amount of water it needs. I think we're gonna put in one more row of kale. I really like kale, and it gives us salad all the way through winter. I really enjoy that.